I listened to that Rogan interview, as I mentioned, 3 hours long. Trump maintained his energy, his just humor, his mental quickness throughout. 3 hours. I mean, it's something you forget sometimes that Trump is 78 years old. Then went and did a rally in Michigan. There were absolutely no signs of cognitive decline, as some on the left are claiming. None. I listened to it all. He was fascinating. I really enjoyed, Rogan said it's going to be a conversation, not an interview. I like that. That's, I would say you guys, I do more interviews. We're members of the press. It's a different job. And what he did there was really interesting. He asked him about whether he's going to release the JFK files if he gets back in office, because he released some but not all when he was president the first time. And Trump said he would release them all. He said that before, but he gave a little color, saying it could embarrass some people, but he didn't seem to telegraph that there's going to be something earth-shattering in there, which I thought was interesting. He asked him if he believes in aliens and life from outer space coming to America and shooting at us in the air. And he said, I've spoken to these badass pilots who can't explain what they've encountered up there any other way. But Trump, to me, kind of telegraphed he wasn't necessarily a believer himself. He said something I've never believed, but I did speak with these guys. So that was interesting. They talked about, I loved the part about Trump described how he went in the fight against ISIS. And he's like, I ended ISIS. And he talks about how they flew into some dark country, unsafe at night, and they told them they had to turn off the lights on Air Force One, no lights at all. And Trump was like, really? Oh, God, are we in that kind of a situation?
And I flew and left at 3 o'clock in the morning. Nobody knew I was going. I got on Air Force One and we started flying. And when we reached about half an hour away from Iraq, that was where the airport was, big airport, about a half an hour away, they said, sir, I'm sorry, you'll have to turn off all your lights. Why? We're getting close to our site, our land.
This is because it's too dangerous?
Yeah, too dangerous, because they see the light up in the air. They'll shoot at it, So I said, turn the lights off. Then they said, sir, we're going to also pull your shades if that's okay. I said, that's okay. The plane was pitch black, all the lights outside, the blinking, they go in the blinking reds, they were all turned off. There's not a light, and I'm saying, I've landed a lot of planes, and you see little lights at least. There's nothing. It's just pure desert. And I said, okay, Captain, good, but I'm looking. Now you've been in many planes where it has the computer sign saying 1,000 feet, goes 1,900. 800. It's a computer voice, but it's an incredible voice. 700. I say, Captain, are we okay? Are we okay, Captain? There's no lights. 500. And I'm telling you, there wasn't a light on the runway. Nothing. And we're going in. You okay, Captain? Everything good? Yes, sir. No problem. We'll be down in about 1 minute, sir. And I'm telling you, Joe, there's always a light. There's not a little pin. And all of a sudden, psh, and you hear, blah, blah, perfect landing like glass. That's how good. I mean, these guys, between the equipment and it's genius.
And he walked us through the moments he got there, and he talked to these, again, badass generals. He speaks very admiringly about our military leaders, not Milley, not John Kelly, but the actual guys out in the field doing the job with our troops. And talked about how good looking they were and how strapping they were and how strong they were. And Trump was clearly looking up to them in a way. And, how they laid it on the line, that the people were saying, no, this can't be done. It's going to take years to wipe out ISIS. And these guys were like, give us 6 weeks, something like that. Fascinating discussion. Talked about the Afghanistan withdrawal, and Trump put a lot of color on exactly how he would have done that differently. Talked about what kind of a moron pulls the troops out first instead of last. And even a child can get that. And talked about how at a rally he had once gone, he pulled a little child up on stage and said, when you're in a bad area, and then you got the military guys there. So should the military guys leave before the civilians or after? And the little kid said, after. He said, see, even a kid gets it. I mean, it was really great stuff. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Talked a little bit about his debates on the presidential stage, talked about our debate back in 2015 and my question to him, which he cannot get over. Anyway, Love the whole thing. And I'll give you a flavor for, you can hear him yourself, because this is an interesting thing too. His biggest mistake as president, SOT 17.
It's very dangerous to pick somebody outside of a politician, because a politician's been basically vetted for years.
Right.
You pick a business guy, and they've never been vetted at all, and they're, the head of a big company or something, but they've never been vetted. You know nothing about his personal life. You know nothing about where he's been. When you put him in, it's a little bit dangerous, because all of a sudden they get checked up and you hear things that you're saying, wow, this is not going to work out too well. So it's very dangerous. The biggest mistake I made was I picked some people. I picked some great people, but you don't think about that. I picked some people that I shouldn't have picked. I picked a few people that I shouldn't have picked. And
neocons?
Yeah, neocons, or bad people, or disloyal people, or
people that were just
people
bad,
that were into the
people got bad advice.
Yeah, you're reading about him a little bit today. A guy like Kelly, who was a bully, but a weak person. He's bad. Bolton was an idiot, but he was great for me. He was good in a certain way. He's a nut job, and every time I had to deal with a country, when they saw this whack job standing behind me, they said, "Oh man, Trump's going to go to war with us."
That is pretty charming. What did you guys think?
Well, yeah, I think Rogan is amazing. I think no one else is doing, or no one in national politics is doing this 3 hours to sit down with the presidential candidate and have a conversation. Like you say, it wasn't really an interview, it was a conversation, and that's what made it so interesting. And you're right. I mean, I think Trump pulled it off well, and it's a side of Trump that people who have spent time with him see that maybe the average voter doesn't, and that he is pretty thoughtful, I guess, in conversation. I particularly liked when he talked about the whales who were going crazy.
We have that. Let me play a little bit of that so they can hear what you're talking about with the windmills endangering our whales, SOT 19.
I think windmills are really disruptive. When you talk about the environment, they kill the birds. You want to see a bird cemetery? Go under a windmill someday that hasn't been cleaned out with all the bird carcasses. It's like massive amounts of birds.
Well, they're also a massive eyesore.
Off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build. The people are going crazy not to build them. But we have them. The whales are washing up on shore.
Right.
So in 50 years, they had one whale come ashore. Now they had like 18 come in the last year.
What is what is happening with the whales? I've read about this.
Well, they say that the wind drives them crazy. It's a vibration, because you have those, those things are 50-story buildings, some of them.
Right, and they're 50. Super sensitive to vibrations.
They have those,
sounds.
The wind is rushing, the things are blowing, it's a vibration, and it makes noise. You know what it is? I want to be a whale psychiatrist. It drives the whales frickin' crazy.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I just mean it's pretty interesting and pretty fascinating, and it showed a sign of Trump that I think people don't see. So I thought it was a smart thing for him to do, and I think it worked, as you pointed out.
And he could talk about anything. He could talk about anything.
Yeah.
That one of the things that impressed me about Trump was, who the hell knows? Like, then they spent this whole section talking about UFC fighting, which Trump has a genuine interest in. I mean, I got nothing. That was like listening to an hour in Greek for me. But okay, Trump knew the fighters' names. He knew some of the fighting history. Like, he was in it for sure. And then, like, going from ISIS, then he talked. Another part that was really interesting, guys, was Rogan asked about when he first got to the White House. What that was like. And Trump went through it. He was like walking through this beautiful house and seeing the Lincoln bedroom for the first time, and talking about the history with Lincoln and the size of the bed and how tall Lincoln was. Like.
And I said to the guys, I want to see the Lincoln bedroom. I had never seen the Lincoln bedroom. I'd heard about the Lincoln bedroom. And I was standing with my wife. I said, do you believe it? This is the Lincoln bedroom. I mean, it was amazing. Because look, if you love the country, but here you are, the Lincoln bedroom. And the bed, he was very tall. He was 6'6", which then would be like Barron.
Right.
It would be like Barron Trump. He's 6'9", but 6'6". He was very tall. Then on top of that,
there it is.
He wore that. Yeah, there it is. It's a long bed, elongated bed. And because people were shorter than you see, some of the chairs are very, very low to the ground, actually. but he had the long bed, and they had you had the Gettysburg Address right on that, right under that. You can't see it here, but right there, the original version of the Gettysburg Address. And this is the original, and I'm looking.
It was like, that's exactly the kind of thing you'd want to ask Trump if you got to speak to him at like a dinner party. But we never get to speak to him at a dinner party, and no one ever gets to hear him at a dinner party. We only get to hear him across from people like me who start hammering him about the stuff that we are supposed to hammer him on because we're journalists. But that was great stuff. What do you guys think? Carl, Tom?
Well, you reminded me of something because he spoke about this admiration he had for the military. And this was a few days after the whole media establishment was up in arms about this piece in The Atlantic by Jeffrey Goldberg, in which it's really a very difficult piece to read. The thesis of it is that Donald Trump doesn't know anything about the military, doesn't understand their values, and has contempt for people who would sacrifice their life for the country. It's a very harsh portrait of him. But as I was listening to Joe Rogan, I was thinking that Jeffrey Goldberg's not like wrong. He's a great journalist. He doesn't make things up, but it's like half the story because it, like you were saying, Megyn, he gives this interview about the White House and how, charmed he was really to be there. And then sort of casually calls, I guess, Bolton and Rex Tillerson and John Kelly, these names, idiot, whack job, nut job, bully. And, that's all. It's of a piece. Trump is both of these people. He's the person who doesn't get the core ethos of the military and yet admires the hell out of them. And he sort of, my point is he came through in that way as a human being. And that's, normally you get caricatures, one side or the other. The MAGA people love him and think he walks on water, and the other side tries to claim he's Adolf Hitler. And of course, he's neither of those. He's a guy with a lot of charisma and a lot of talent and really amazing flaws too. Mm-hmm. I thought it all came through in Rogan's talk.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say, I had a couple thoughts. And Megyn, you've interviewed him. I've interviewed him too. And I always tell people interviewing Trump is like sort of riding a verbal bucking bronco, right? You ask him a question and then you're trying to hold on. He's all over the place. Joe Rogan talked about this too, trying to keep him, respectfully trying to get him back on answering the question after you've taken a tour. The Weave, now we know it's called, he touches on 10 things. And certainly that's part of what was going on. I mean, the other thing too is, and this is for people who haven't thoroughly been broken by Donald Trump, right? Their brain's been broken. He's funny. He is a funny guy. And this is, when you see him up there, I mean, Russell Brand had a great thing over the weekend on YouTube. Like, do you think, Hitler would be up there dancing to the YMCA and doing the golf swing? I mean, would Hitler have a comedian come up on? I mean, his rallies are,
Hitler did not have comedians. I looked it up. No comedians at Nuremberg.
Right. That was the worst Nazi rally ever. There were a lot of Jews there. There were comedians. I mean, if you're a Nazi, that was not for you. And that's part of what gets, and the people who, love Trump, that's one of the things they love about him is because he is funny and they're in on the joke. And the people whose brains have been broken by Trump, they're not in on the joke. And all they see is, the worst aspects of him. And they've built him up into this giant, threat. And so that's why he's become such a polarizing figure. But his humor did really come through in that Joe Rogan interview.
One word on the windmills. They are a nightmare. And as somebody who owns property in New Jersey, those windmills along the Jersey shore are an outrage. They got killed in one area of New Jersey, Cape May, and we need to kill them and the rest because we've got a blue state left-wing governor who's trying to shove these things down our throat, notwithstanding the safety studies. Look what happened in Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket area over the summer, where they shattered all these toxins in the water. The kids couldn't swim. They are damaging the wildlife. They're a nightmare for bird life. They don't generate much energy at all. They're unnecessary. We have, as Trump says, a gold mine of fossil fuel energy in this country. It's just awful, and they must be stopped. But these left-wingers who have this extreme eco agenda are now trying to fact check on the damage to whales that they pose. And they're wrong because Schellenberger who worked for Greenpeace, who worked in the Obama administration to set up Solyndra windows, solar windows. He was a true believer and then saw how all of this stuff was a nightmare and organically came over to the other side, put out the following. He had a documentary called Thrown to the Wind that discusses the link between renewable wind turbines and whale deaths. Watch.
I saw another whale had washed up. It's becoming a pattern. Is it the windmills? Is it the pounding of the seafloor? How many whales is it going to take?
There aren't many places where the North Atlantic right whale can go. It's destined to extinction.
It sounds like they're like it's like pile driving.
This is what the whale is experiencing, but not out of my land.
What the United States is looking at is thousands of wind turbines in an area that our whales, our dolphins, our marine life, where they live, where they migrate, where they breed. It's only when they started going into the wind lease areas that we believe that the whales are dying.
So those red dots are whale deaths.
Precisely.
What a scandal.
No one wants to talk about it. Trump raises it. He was informed. He didn't know they were going to talk about wind turbines, but he had done his homework. And the other thing he said that was very interesting, Rogan was pushing nuclear energy, which is good. It's very good. It's efficient. Schellenberger loves it. And Trump revealed his hesitation to it. And he talked, it was a throwaway, but he talked about how he worries about how a nuclear plant would be a massive terrorist target. And it was like, this is great to hear him talk about this and like what's driving his thought process on energy. He kept going back to the fossil fuels. This was great, you guys. He just showed such a depth of knowledge on so many subjects, and all I could think, and of course Trump said it as well, was there is zero chance Kamala Harris could do this. This year, supply chain issues have been more prevalent than ever. Whether it's the result of natural disasters like Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, global conflict, or inflation, the impacts are being felt everywhere. While they sometimes are a minor inconvenience, delays in accessing essential medications can become catastrophic. The U.S. relies on overseas sources for more than 80% of its generic medications. So what happens when there are delays? Or what if supplies are cut off? How will you care for your loved ones and yourself? The Jase case offers peace of mind for you and your family in the face of delays, shortages, and disasters. This is an emergency medication kit containing 5 life-saving antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. Simply complete a quick online evaluation to ensure you're prepared. The Jase case can also be customized with add-ons like ivermectin, EpiPens, and more. Don't wait. Consider preparing right now. Receive a discount on your Jase case by visiting jase.com and entering promo code MK at checkout. That's promo code MK at jase.com, ensuring you have the right medications exactly when you need them. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.